Welcome, fellow TV and film fanatics, to the Binge List, where we make recommendations for TV shows and movies that you can access from the comfort of your own home. Are you wondering what to check out on Netflix next month? Well, I'm not going to cover everything coming to Netflix in February 2024, only what I think are the best new shows and movies that are worth your time. And make sure to hang out because there's a show on this list that I am super pumped to check out, and I hope that they don't screw it up, along with all kinds of other amazing options that are coming to the streaming service this month: giant monster action, zombies, war dramas, new Netflix originals, and more. So stop mindlessly scrolling, stop wasting your time, and let's jump in and check out this list. I want to start this list off with one of my favorite movies of all time, and it is the action-packed, sci-fi epic Pacific Rim, coming February 1st. This movie has giant robots, giant monsters. It's honestly like Guillermo del Toro took my childhood and wrapped it up into this movie. And on top of the excellent subject matter, he threw in two of my favorite actors with Charlie Hunnam and Idris Elba in this one. Is it a perfect movie? Absolutely not. It can be a bit predictable, it has sci-fi cliches, and it's sometimes exposition heavy, but let me remind you, it has giant monsters and giant robots fighting in these amazing fight scenes with breathtaking visuals that bring you right into the fight with this CGI that is epic.
In order to fight monsters, we created monsters of our own.
Next, on February 1st, we get an action-packed revenge thriller, American Assassin, based on the novel of the same name by Vince Flynn. It follows Mitch, a CIA Black Ops recruit fueled by vengeance, and his mentor Stan, starring Dylan O'Brien and Taylor Kitsch, who bring high-octane action into this one, along with the iconic Michael Keaton. This is a solid movie with a lot to enjoy for anyone who enjoys a good espionage revenge movie. And it's not the same caliber as these movies, but it has hints of films like The Bourne Identity or the John Wick series in it. Next, we go to a World War II drama with Brad Pitt leading a star-studded cast with Shia LaBeouf, Logan Lerman, Jon Bernthal, and Michael Pena in Fury. This is another great option on the first. I would put this at the top of the must-watches hitting Netflix in February. If you haven't seen it, it has tons of intense action scenes, and it's not for the faint of heart with its graphic depiction of World War II, but to me, the best parts of this movie are the strong performances, this camaraderie in this group, and just the simple interactions with these phenomenal actors working on screen. And it even throws in some humor to keep it from being overly dark the entire time. Next up is the sequel to something we recommended on our January 2024 video, and if you enjoyed it, great, because now you can check out the sequel with How to Train Your Dragon 2, where you go on another adventure with Hiccup and Toothless with even more dragons than before and some hidden secrets along the way. Next, we have a movie that its predecessor scared me to death as a child with 2017's It. This movie is based on the Stephen King novel of the same name, starring Bill Skarsgård as the iconic clown Pennywise. This movie is extremely creepy, but it's also fun and packed full of nostalgia for fans of 80s themed horror content. If you're a Stranger Things fan and you're jonesing for the new season to be released, this might be a great option to curb your appetite while we wait, but follow the Losers Club as children as they battle this demented monster. Let's move on to another Brad Pitt-led film with the biopic Moneyball, where he plays the general manager Billy Beane of the Oakland Athletics. This is another excellent movie, and I will be honest, I am not a fan of baseball. I think it is dreadfully boring unless you actually go to the game. But this is a movie obviously about baseball, but it's also about math. Sounds exciting, but it's more centered around the characters and the Great Wall of China-sized roadblock that Billy has to overcome to achieve what he did with the Oakland Athletics. Tons of great performances from the cast with Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Stephen Bishop, and others bringing a lot of heart to this movie about the driest of subject matters, math and baseball. Next, we have two action-packed zombie films with the original Resident Evil and then Resident Evil Retribution on February 1st. Both of these films star Mila Jovovich as Alice fighting the mutated hordes of the undead. I do think the original is the better of these two options if you're going to give one of them a shot. That may be the nostalgia talking in me, but if you enjoy the games or you just like action horror, you could do way worse than these two iconic video game adaptations. Then my next pick is a coming-of-age dramedy, Shortcomings. This story centers around Ben, who is dealing with the loneliness and growing unhappiness with his life, along with his best friend Alice to help him along this journey. And that may not sound great, but this movie is actually really funny, with lots of witty, intelligent dialogue and humorous situations that these characters get put into. Justin Min and Sherry Cola are great together with tons of on-screen chemistry. And then they poke fun at a lot of things like cultural expectations, pop culture, and millennial anxieties. Then something a little bit heavier with Shot Caller, and honestly this was a movie I didn't know much about until putting this list together. So I checked it out and wow, it is an intense film with some truly brutal scenes, heavy subject matter, and then the Game of Thrones star Nicola Coster-Waldau delivers a captivating performance as Jacob. It was very different than any of the other roles that I've seen him in, and some great actors were supporting him along the way in this movie, from Omar Hardwick, Lake Bell, John Bernthal, and Jeffrey Donovan. Definitely something to check out here in February if you're looking for an intense movie. Next up is Leonardo DiCaprio's dream project with The Great Gatsby. This is a movie that he wanted to make for over a decade. Gatsby is throwing lavish parties in this movie in the decadent roaring 20s when young Midwesterner Nick gets drawn into this world. In this film, you can expect dazzling visuals, a pulsating modern soundtrack, and an exploration of love and loss. I personally really enjoyed this film, but honestly, you do not have to take it from me. F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote The Great Gatsby's granddaughter, praised this film, stating that her grandfather would have been proud of this adaptation. And honestly, the soundtrack that I talked about, it is awesome. I still listen to it to this day, so definitely worth checking out. Now our first TV show on this list, and we get season 1 of HBO Max's series The Tourist, starring Jamie Dornan as a man desperately searching for his identity in the heart of the Australian outback. This is a really compelling show that grabs you right from the beginning in a lot of different ways. The characters are intriguing, the Australian backdrop is pretty amazing to look at, and the mystery the narrative revolves around keeps you guessing each episode as they slowly give you pieces of the puzzle. And if you really enjoy this, on the 29th, season 2 is actually being released as well. This is the last title that's on the first, but this is probably going to be the first thing that I watch, and that is the thriller horror film X. I've not seen this movie yet, but the trailer looks amazing. It's about a group of filmmakers set out to make this adult film in rural Texas, but their plans are completely derailed when they encounter a mysterious and violent couple. The film looks like it's going to be a slow burning, eerie, atmospheric horror, like a classic slasher film from the 1970s or 1980s, but it has a really solid cast. It has Mia Goth, Brittany Snow, Jenna Ortega, and the most random with Kid Cudi in this, so definitely going to check this out here on February. Then on the 2nd, we're getting a new Netflix original movie with Orion in the Dark. Orion is a young boy who is afraid of heights, pets, and rendered nearly catatonic by the worst of all his fears, the dark. In this film, Dark is actually this humanoid entity that comes and visits Orion and takes him on this nighttime trip to prove to the youngster that there's nothing to fear but fear itself. I'm a sucker for animated films, so I'm definitely going to check this out with my kids. It looks like it has a dash of humor, great animation from the studio that did How to Train Your Dragon, and a solid cast. Also on the 2nd, we get a pretty cool rom-com story with Plus One, starring Maya Erskine and Jack Quaid. This is a story about lifelong friends who agree to be each other's plus one at every wedding that they get invited to. This is extremely similar to a movie that I recommended on my best Christmas movies to watch, and that's Holiday. They are each other's platonic plus one. It has a lot of humorous situations, chemistry between the leads, and the stereotypical rom-com formulas where you know what's going to happen, but following them along on this journey and seeing how they get there is the fun part. It's a fun movie to check out. Then the next day on the 3rd, we get Ready Player One.
A whole virtual universe.
And this is another one of my favorites on this list if you haven't seen it. This is a high-octane adventure inside this virtual world of the Oasis, directed by Steven Spielberg. This stars Ty Sheridan as Wade, aka Parzival, and Olivia Cook as Sam, aka Artemis, facing off against the menacing Ben Mendelsohn for the fate of the world. This movie has absolutely breathtaking CGI that you get to venture into in the CGI world. It's overflowing with Easter eggs that could send you into this nostalgia overload. It is a jam-packed love letter to the 80s and 90s pop culture. Like Gatsby for Leo, this was Spielberg's dream project, working on this adaptation of the Ernest Cline novel for over a decade, so you know you're getting a high-quality film going into this. If that's not your thing, then maybe something a little bit more humorous on the 10th will work for you with Horrible Bosses 2. Jason Bateman, Jason Sudeikis, and Charlie Day return in this film, and this sequel, it's not quite as funny as the original, but it still has plenty to enjoy, a lot of humorous situations, and they do raise the stakes with the addition of some new characters, so it's well worth a watch. Here's another TV show that we're getting on the 16th. You can check out the former Cinemax/Max original Warrior, starring Andrew Koji. And if you're a fan of Bruce Lee movies, this is probably a good pick for you as it was conceived as a tribute to him. Set in the late 1800s, Warrior follows a Chinese martial arts prodigy who journeys from China to San Francisco and ends up getting swept up by the brutal Tang Wars. clashing with rival gangs and navigating the treacherous underworld. This show was canceled after its 3rd season, but those 3 seasons are now here on Netflix, and some of the best fight choreography on television is in this show, with brutal clashes showcasing traditional martial arts with stunning realism thanks to some of the actors that they brought in with real-world martial arts experience. On the 20th, we get another DreamWorks animated film with Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. In this film, we see shy teenager Ruby discover that she's descended from a legendary lineage of warrior krakens and must embrace her destiny. This is a fun movie. You get the same great visuals you'd expect from DreamWorks, some humor and heart, along with these giant monster fights. This isn't my favorite DreamWorks animated film, but it is a fun movie and good for a family movie night.
The world needs the Avatar.
Now on the 22nd, this is the show that I am super pumped to check out and potentially going to be my new favorite series on Netflix, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbenders live action series. I'm also super nervous about this one because I love the animated series. I've watched it numerous times growing up, and then they made a movie about it. And it was horrible to those faithful to the source material, so bad that I really don't even want to talk about it. But I have such high hopes for this series. If you're unfamiliar with this show, we follow Aang and his friends as they travel around the world, and he tries to master the mystical power of bending the 4 elements: air, water, fire, and earth, in hopes of becoming the Avatar and bringing this world together. I'm hoping that they can use some of the magic that they used on the One Piece series in this to make it just as good and as lovable as the original animated series. If that doesn't sound interesting to you, no problem, I completely understand, but you can also check out on the 22nd, the sports action film Southpaw starring Jake Gyllenhaal. This is a great movie with a compelling redemption story. If watching this Warrior piqued your interest, but you thought, man, that seems a little bit too boring or too normal for me, then on the 23rd, you can check out Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie started off as a movie being shot in the director's home to winning Oscars and is now internationally praised by viewers and critics. It won tons of awards and well deserved. Michelle Yeoh as the main character Evelyn shines alongside Ke-Huy Quan, who is amazing, really showing his range in this film. Be prepared for sensory overload though, because this movie has a bit of everything. It has emotional depth, it has epic martial art fight scenes, and hot dog fingers. Yes, hot dog fingers, and just some of the weirdest off-the-wall hilarious situations that you can even imagine. This goes right up there with Ready Player One and Pacific Rim as movies I'd definitely check out if you haven't seen it this February.
Across the multiverse, I've seen thousands of Evelyns. You can access all their memories, their emotions, even the skills.
Last but definitely not least, and this is on the typical last day of February the 28th, we have the sequel to the sci-fi superpowered movie starring the brothers Stephen and Robbie Amell in Code 8 Part 2. I obviously didn't see this yet as it didn't come out yet, but I like the Amell brothers in the original Code 8 enough to check this out and recommend it to you guys. From the trailer, it looks like this is going to be even more action-packed than the original. It's going to expand on this world a little bit, and we're going to explore some new and more powerful powers. And I love superheroes, so I'm really looking forward to checking this one out and seeing where they go with it. Oh, and I did forget, I do want to share some honorable mentions that are not my typical TV show or movies that I recommend that are hitting Netflix in February. We have 2 comedy specials, one from Taylor Tomlinson, Have It All, on February 13th. Then later in the month on the 20th, we have Mike Epps, Ready to Sell Out. And I love stand-ups and have enjoyed both these comics, so I definitely wanted to share this with you. As well as on the 23rd, my favorite docuseries on Netflix, Formula One Drive to Survive's new season comes out. I enjoy racing, but I never really got into Formula One until this show. So if you haven't at least peeked at it, give it a try. That's going to do it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the list. Like and subscribe to the channel or check out one of our other videos here, but definitely let us know down in the comments which one of these titles you're going to check out or maybe already love. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.